Do you have a god to put a last prayer to, Belmont?
The Castlevania Netflix series surprised us with its hyper-violent story and interesting characters. It returns to Netflix for a second season on October 26th. After you binge it, if you're still thirsty for blood, here are 5 Castlevania games to play that tell good stories. Castlevania 3 was the best 8-bit Castlevania and the earliest set game in the series with Dracula as the villain. Lament of Innocence for PlayStation 2 is actually set before Castlevania 3 in a pre-Dracula time when the villain was just a regular vampire. But in the end of that game, it is revealed that one of the main protagonists, Leon Belmont's trusted friend Matthias, had forsaken humanity and orchestrated a way to absorb the soul of the vampire. A few hundred years later, and Matthias' power had grown enough to become Lord Dracula, and he set about trying to eradicate all human life. That's where Trevor Belmont comes in, along with the help of his buddies Grant Dynasty, Sypha, and Alucard, who makes his first appearance here and would then go into hibernation until Symphony of the Night. Trevor defeats the Dracula, formerly known as Matthias. Rondo of Blood stars Richter Belmont, direct descendant of Simon, who he played as in the very first Castlevania. That means it's his destiny to battle Dracula, but he also has a personal reason for whipping his way through the old castle. His lady friend has been kidnapped. Along the way, he encounters a young girl, Maria Renard, who turns out to be a distant blood relative of the Belmonts. She would go on to appear in Symphony of the Night and Castlevania Judgment. Remember that fighting game for the Wii? Yeah, it's not on this list. Anyway, Rondo of Blood is a great, if straightforward, Castlevania that you can play on PS4 as part of the Castlevania Requiem bundle, out October 26th. The first Castlevania to add Metroid elements to its gameplay is still probably the best of the entire series. Hell, it's one of the best games of all time. It picks up right during the climactic battle between Richter and Dracula in Rondo of Blood. After a time jump 4 years into the future, we are reunited with Alucard, the mysterious figure from Castlevania 3 whose name is an impossible riddle no one can figure out. Inside Dracula's castle, Alucard encounters Maria Renard as she searches for Richter, who has gone missing. Turns out, Richter is under Dracula's spell and thinks he's the new lord of the castle. Symphony of the Night also includes some of the most hilariously bad voice acting of all time.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world!
While we generally think of Castlevania taking place in the past, Dawn of Sorrow is actually set in the near future, 2036 AD to be exact. It's the direct sequel to Aria of Sorrow, which introduced new protagonist Soma Cruz and picks up 1 year later. A cultist lures Soma back to Dracula's castle, where evil forces are once again attempting to revive the Dark Lord. Dawn of Sorrow is the latest set of the mainline Castlevania games. And then there's Lords of Shadow, which kicked off its own Castlevania timeline that spans 3 games. This, its sequel, and Mirror of Fate. Things kick off in the year 1047 with a new protagonist, Gabriel Belmont. He's on a quest to defeat the Lords of Shadow and hopefully resurrect his dead wife. What's interesting here is that Satan is the villain and Dracula isn't in the game, or is he? Those are our picks for Castlevania games that will get your blood pumping after you watch Season 2 of the Netflix series. For more, check out this incredible speedrun of the original Castlevania and this footage of Simon and Richter Belmont in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And remember, you can't spell Castlevania without IGN unless you leave out the G.